Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump got into a little bit of trouble on Twitter after they had mocked a reporter for reporting on a very serious situation. Now, this reporter is roll call reporter Bridget Bowman, and she had shared an article by a colleague talking about how a police officer had left his gun in a bathroom at the Capitol Visitor Center complex. Now, this is a Glock 22, and it's, I guess, a standard police weapon. And she was worried because, well, in the story, apparently Glock 22s have a safety system that is not a usual kind of safety system, meaning that you could basically bypass the safety by pulling the trigger. Essentially, there is no safety. I'm not quite sure 100% how it works, but I believe I know more than Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, as evidenced by their tweets. Now, Donald Trump Jr. tweeted in response to the story, "Oh my God, a gun that fires if the trigger is pulled." Look, generally. But the problem is, again, with that safety and actually leaving that gun in a bathroom to where a kid could actually pick it up and use it, or somebody else could pick it up and use that gun. So that's problematic. And if you have police officers that are leaving their guns in bathrooms, guns that don't have a traditional safety that can be easily picked up by a regular person or by a child and accidentally used, that could be a huge, huge problem, right? So now, Don Jr. Afterwards says, "I understand full well how a Glock works. I own a few, but this kind of sensationalism is why no one that actually understands guns can have a discussion with the other side. They don't have a clue, but want to make the rules." Well, but you don't have a clue because you obviously just pointed out how you don't actually know about how it works because you completely disregarded a story about somebody leaving that gun in the bathroom and having it possibly picked up by somebody else and used. You apparently don't know how it works, which is sad, right? Now there's more. Eric Trump also added in, "It fires if the trigger is pulled. Generally, that's how firearms work. Hashtag big scoop." Now, to show you how they have a little bit of self-awareness, later on, he deleted that tweet. But that's not before other users jumped in. Robert Manning says, "You're so dumb if you think this was actually about the mechanics of a gun, rather than the fact that, say, if a child came upon the gun, not knowing how it works, accidentally setting it off. You just say the dumbest stuff. No wonder Daddy didn't trust your judgment." These guys are both in charge of the Trump business. Really. No wonder. It is a wonder that the business has not fallen apart. Ethan Embry says, "What the article is highlighting, this gun effectively has no safety. Its only safety is embedded into the trigger. As the trigger is pulled, the safety is released. Typically, this type of safety means the gun is always ready to fire, if chambered, and cops typically chamber their guns." Now, I remember taking an introductory law enforcement course at a community college. So the way that they do things is if a policeman draws their gun, it is ready to fire. And you do not stop firing until that magazine is empty. Now, that is one of the issues that obviously police have right now, is that they are too quick to pull their guns and use lethal force. We've seen it 1,000 times. And so having this type of weapon with this kind of safety in the hands of police, look, it makes sense for what they're trying to do, what they're going for. I don't agree with that. And I think, we should have cops that are less trigger happy. But what I'm saying is that at least that setup makes sense to what they're trying to do, right? And how it mechanically works. But again, this is something that Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump do not understand, right? Ian Poley says, "We get it, Junior. You know how to shoot things. Shouldn't you be getting your affairs in order before the indictments start dropping?" Hey, we'll see if he'll get indicted, right? Now, more. Packer Pam says, "Again, you missed a point. You pulled the trigger on sensationalism." Fun. D'Angelo says, "I think you missed a point. I'm not sure you know. I'm sure you do know the safety in the Glock is in the trigger, not like other weapons that has a different safety mechanism." Minty Claire says, "Don't be an ignoramus. You knew it was a reference to a gun that doesn't require cocking. Every chance you get, you take in pursuit of unique posturing. You and your family are laughing stocks around the world. Great branding. Should be terrific for future licensing deals." Angular Ed said, "She means it has no safety, Dilweed." So here's the thing, right? So they're rightly getting mocked for not understanding the context of the story. Which, again, if you actually read it and you don't just retweet headlines, then you'll understand that, hey, look, having police have this type of weapon and leaving it in a visitor center is a very dangerous thing. So maybe we should look at maybe supplying them with different weapons, or, I don't know, doing something different. Anything different that would prevent a situation where somebody who, doesn't understand how this works, or a child doesn't get a hold of this weapon and accidentally kill themselves or someone else. There's more. Laura Marie says, "If you would have taken 2 seconds to read the article, it says, unlike a gun with a traditional safety, a Glock will fire with the trigger is pulled, making the discovery of an unattended gun in the Capitol complex particularly concerning." That's a quote from the article. So that's enough of them explaining, right? Now there's more. Jen says, "Eric, cling to your tenuous spot as the smart one. Stop talking." Now, wait a minute. I thought Eric was the dumb one. The dumber one. Now, we're going to have to get back to who's the dumber person. Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr.? Who's the dumber Trump child? I'm kind of curious now what you guys think. I may have to do a poll. Mike Wade says, "Eric, you was smart." Simon Marshall says, "Poor dumber Fredo. He does his best." Lisa Rago says, "I see why you don't say much. Let's keep it that way." And Mitchell Robertson says, "Unlike Eric, who is triggered if his dad is fired." That's an interesting one. And then Zaza Chilver says, "Are you competing with Junior now?" I think it is a competition. And again, I don't know who's going to win. But we need to have the dumb off. Who will win? And why can't it be both? That's a good question. It can be, but again, I want to see who is the dumber person. And so let me know in the comments who you think is dumber, Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.